What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Breakaway Podcast. I'm your host, Jon Root, and my goodness, we live in a wild, wild world. It's actually insane what I was seeing and witnessing in Atlanta, Georgia at the NCAA Division I Women's Swimming Championships. But before we get into this and intro our very special guest for this Sunday conversation, TPUSA Live. They want to give you the truth. You also get a lot more of me. What an absolute dream, right? You can go to tpusa.com/live, going live every single day. Drew Hernandez, Jack Posobiec, yours truly, a lot of great conservative voices, giving you the truth and giving you the tools and resources to fight back against the woke culture. But one way to fight back against the woke culture is speaking out against it. And what I want you to know about this interviewee that you are about to be introduced to, this is Seth Huston, a Division I coach at Rice University. He became the first active Division I coach that spoke out against what the NCAA allowed in these swimming competitions. You got to remember, the NCAA needs to be held accountable for this. I don't like it, but Lia Thomas was abiding by the rules. And something that Seth focused on, I want you to focus on while you're watching and listening to this, is the NCAA is protecting one athlete at the expense of many. Seth breaks down, I feel like in America, be who you want to be. Change your name to whatever you want. But we know that what just happened was unfair. And it's unfair to the women that have been working their entire lives to get to where they're at. And it's not just about Lia Thomas winning. Lia Thomas being involved in the prelims, being involved in the finals is taking a spot away from someone. Whether Lia Thomas is taking a spot on the podium or just on the pool deck there. It's crazy what we're dealing with, but Seth is unbelievably courageous. What he is doing, speaking out against this, looking for accountability from the NCAA, I hope this is a spark that lights the fire. You've seen a few more people come out and speak out, and I think that's really important because this time right now, it's not a time to be silent. It's a time to stand up and speak out, or else we might lose women's sports forever. So upon further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Seth Huston. Hey everyone, I'm sitting down with Rice swimming coach Seth Huston right now. What a beautiful day we got going on right outside the aquatic center.
We swam over here. Yeah.
Basically did. And I'm not a very good swimmer. You don't want to see me in the pool, but the topic about this is actually seeing another biological man in the pool. And I would love just like sitting down here. I know when I saw you a little bit earlier, I was like, I'd love to have a conversation about, from your perspective, what this has been like, for your athletes, for the parents, for just being around, because everything's led to the championships here with Lia Thomas.
Yeah. I'd say, when I spoke out the first time, most of my frustration was just with the NCAA and kind of the lack of leadership at the time. And kind of, let's put this off on governing bodies. And then, governing bodies come up with a pretty, I think, viable solution. And the NCAA kind of said, well, we're not going to, we'll address that after the year. So, I think it's just kind of been, they have kind of protected one athlete at the expense of many, is really how a lot of us here feel.
Yeah, because that's what I feel like everyone's so confused about. It's like, why is this the baseline? Just allowing this, and then we'll come to the table after. Come to the table after people miss out on, like you said, and we've talked off camera, being All-Americans, even being in the final heats, getting to the top spot of the podium. It seems like the NCAA has failed these women, these parents, and coaches like you.
Exactly. And I will say, I feel like the NCAA, for the last almost 50 years, has probably been the leader in creating opportunities for women. And now, lo and behold, out of kind of, just honestly kind of a political correctness, they're regressing and really hurting women. And again, this is, I'm standing up for my team for just the opportunity for them to have scholarships to, come to this meet and final, to be an All-American, for all the great things that come with being in sport, the accolades beyond, all the hard work and effort they put in. And I feel like there's a certain point, I heard one of your interviews with the Virginia Tech athlete, and what is kind of the psychological side of it when you're stepping up on the blocks next to Lia. And again, I don't really want to make this about Lia.
Yeah.
Lia is really playing by the rules that the NCAA has set, and good for her. But these things probably, well, I know they needed to be addressed way before we got to this point.
Because, I mean, even me, I don't have a swimming background. All I've done is really watch the Olympics. So that's why I wanted to sit down with someone like you that's been in this for a long time. So I watch just now, as we speak, the night before, Lia Thomas won the 500-meter freestyle. And then now yards, excuse me. See, that goes to show I'm not a swimming guy. But
gotta keep you honest.
That's why we have Seth here. And today, in watching the prelims, it seems like that Lia was almost holding back a little bit and then just started to turn it on right at the end. And this just got to be demoralizing even before you dive into the pool initially.
I mean, yeah, you saw it. I don't want to speak for Lia's strategy because I could tell you if I have an athlete who we feel confident can get into the finals, we're not going to lay it on the line in the preliminaries. We're going to kind of do what it takes to get in, and that very well might have been the strategy that was put in place there. So, really you come back and see what happens tonight. But yeah, there was definitely kind of a controlled effort and finishing strong. It was a pretty good race strategy.
And then something you said too is it seems like a very black and white issue that has gotten way too confusing. And I know even yesterday when I was talking to people that were supporters of Lia Thomas, they couldn't really explain hey, so this person, formerly known as Will, was on the men's team for 3 years and then switches over to the women's team, goes from 400 and something in the nation to number 1 in the events that Lia competes in. Can you explain that? Do you feel like this is someone that's kind of taken advantage of women right now, and it didn't seem like they had an answer to that?
I feel like I guess I could say the NCAA is kind of in cahoots, I guess, with this. We're kind of taking our culture, where, let's face it, you were in the venue today. It is a polite, respectful crowd.
Yep.
Everybody on the deck has been polite and respectful. We want the best for everybody, Lia included. But I feel like we're taking something culturally, let's say in the classroom, in the workplace, that would be flat out discrimination and just completely wrong to take a transgender and dismiss them or not have them contribute. Yeah. But I feel like that is different in sport. We have created men's and women's for a reason.
Yep.
And this was done back in the 70s because they knew at the time that there was a big difference physiologically. I mean, the male, a man changes quite drastically from a woman during puberty. And if we hadn't made these changes, I mean, women would have been left behind in sport.
Yep.
And so that there really does still need to be a distinction. And that's why I say it's more or less kind of black and white in the sporting world, not in recreational sports, not in fun and games with kids. And that's just my opinion. And it's an opinion of a lot of people. And it's not a slam against anybody and who they want to be at all. And I feel like that's where it gets really murky and clouded with a lot of people being angry or frustrated or calling me transphobic or anything like that. And that is, I can't even begin to tell you that's not even my personality or who I am at all. So yeah, it can be kind of frustrating to feel like you have a logical opinion, and a lot of people will want to shoot you down for it.
But it seems like that's what's happening just culturally in our world. That if I don't agree with what you have to say, I'm going to put you in this box of being transphobic. I can't imagine that 99% of the people in there are transphobes. Like, you cannot convince me of that whatsoever. And then you're on a college campus all the time. And I know we cover what's happening on college campuses at Turning Point USA. And basically what we want is just representation from both sides. We want to have diversity of thought. Like, let's come to the table and talk about this and not get to this point of, oh, you don't want Lia Thomas in the pool, or you just don't want biological males competing with females. That doesn't make you a transphobe. This makes you want to have integrity and fairness in the sport. But a lot of times conversations are getting squashed, and it's really unfortunate because we're seeing a lot of that happen at college campuses.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, I can tell you on the pool deck, I've had a lot of pat on the backs and, hey, thank you for speaking up. And, I don't say, well, go on. You speak up too. I mean, I think a lot of people are uncomfortable in that position.
Do you feel like people are uncomfortable speaking because they just don't want to be called those names, be put in that box, and they just don't know or don't really have the idea of how to get out of that transphobe box that people like to put people in?
I think there's probably some of that. I mean, we can say, I don't want to lose my job, or our school has told us, to no comment, and those are real. I think some of it is just a little bit of fear of kind of expressing an opinion and having people, like maybe shout you down or leave nasty messages or something like that. And personally, I can tell you, like, I haven't received anything to my face that has been negative. I've had people try to go to my superiors. I've had nothing but really support, and so I haven't found it to be debilitating for me.
Isn't that just a great reflection of the country that we're in and the culture we're in then, that people are getting silenced? And I know we were talking about that teammate of the Virginia Tech swimmer that was just on the outside looking in to be a part of the finals that were yesterday as we speak right now. And that was the first time I'd seen a collegiate athlete go in front of a camera and speak. And I think that is a total reflection of where we're at right now, where it's like, if you don't agree with this, you got to be silent.
Yeah, I feel like with the college athletes, it's a different story when you're here at the meet. They've got their own job to do, and that's, their heads down, they're training, they're getting themselves prepared, they're being a great teammate to their teammates. Speaking out and being kind of in that arena is probably not, probably in their best interest or where they need to be right now. So I understand why a lot of college athletes haven't said much about it. I'm not saying it's the adults' job to do it, but I think we have to kind of take a balanced, measured approach. Like, what do we feel like we're comfortable saying? And again, my whole premise at the beginning was just, I'm looking for fairness in sport, and in this particular case, swimming. And I think most people, it really is most people, like, particularly here at this venue and in sporting, we see that this is not a fair situation.
And I know this is something I've talked about online too, and just being in the building today, you could just tell the energy just changes. That, like, it's so hyped up, there's big music going on when they're warming up, and then there's other prelims going on, and then watching Lia Thomas get on the pool deck there, and it seems like there's just a silence, and that everybody knows what is about to happen. This biological man is about to beat all these women. And it's not a shocker when Lia Thomas touches the wall first. And then after that, once Lia Thomas is gone, the energy is back up again. And I feel like that's why this aspect of silence is deafening here. You can tell by people not even saying anything at all what they think about the situation.
You do feel kind of a difference when that heat is up. We saw it last night. There was, more cheers for the second place finisher in the 500 free than for the champion, and there was polite applause. It was a great swim. Yep. I can't argue with the performance. But again, people they're just politely applauding. They are being respectful, but kind of in a way just disagreeing that, is this really the way it should be? And again, I'm going to say this is an NCAA issue, not a transgender, not a Lia Thomas issue. And it's a shame that, the lack of leadership put us in this place right now.
And then how can we make sure that the faces and names and voices of these women that might have just missed the cut or are finishing second that should be in first if Lia Thomas wasn't competing, like how do we make sure that those names and faces are heard and seen more?
I think what I hope is that the NCAA will revisit, their rules and how they want to address these things. And this is more or less a one-time experience. And hopefully future athletes won't have to go through this process. I just hope, the athletes that are on kind of the ones who have missed out getting the opportunity to swim tonight, I'm glad it's not one of mine. I'm not really sure how I'd handle that, but what I feel like, again, what I've said before is, and we learned this as athletes, you want to control and manage what's within your power. Yep. And this is something that is not within their power, and they're just going to have to get up and do their best and learn from it. And if they, they get knocked out, well, hopefully they learn from that experience, that they're going to come back and hopefully perform well in the next race and kind of move on, and maybe they'll be more outspoken or kind of understand what, fairness or lack thereof how it can affect people.
So how do you go about encouraging your athletes, and how would you encourage other coaches to speak to their athletes that might be a little demoralized right now, that might be unbelievably confused or feel like that if they say anything at all that people don't like, that could be the end of their career and they could lose friends and they could lose scholarships? How would you encourage your own athletes and other coaches?
John, that's a good question. You could probably put that to even to Lia Thomas. Yeah. Again, with the rules that were set up, Lia Thomas Penn made the appeal. The NCAA, based on the way the rules were, was okay to swim. So, same token on Lia's side, I got to imagine there's got to be really hard to focus on what you're doing and really racing, just with kind of being in the center of attention. And I think that, on the opposite side, then the other athletes here, it's just you're going to have to kind of try to zone in on what you can do. I know I talked to the athlete I have here now. We're not swimming the same events, but know that there's going to be a little bit of a spectacle here, and not get lost in that scene, and really, as we say back home and from the commercial, stay in your lane, bro. Let's focus on what you're doing in between those two lane ropes, and make that your priority.
Well, food, it's a huge part of the sports experience. What if you could buy the food you need for your watch party and donate to TPUSA without even leaving your home? No way, John, right? You can do that with Good Ranchers. They sell 100% American meat, and they believe so much in what we're doing right here, right now. They'll donate 50 buckaroos to TPUSA on your behalf when you purchase from them. Good Ranchers delivers steakhouse quality beef, chicken, and seafood right to your door. And with our code TPUSA, that's TPUSA, you can donate $50 to our mission while getting absolutely delicious food. Head on over to goodranchers.com/TPUSA today. Get ribeyes, New York strips, gourmet burgers, and so much more. Order now with promo code TPUSA, and $50 will be donated to our mission of sharing and preserving true American values and making sure men aren't in women's sports. Go to goodranchers.com/TPUSA to get a box today. Once again, use promo code TPUSA at goodranchers.com/TPUSA. Do good while you eat good.
And that's why I think it's so important that you're bringing up this aspect of the conversation that's more than Lia Thomas. This is about the other women swimmers that are here, and this is about generations to come. And that's why you kind of hope that, the NCAA is going to look at this situation right here, right now, and hopefully in the off season, figure it out. But for you individually, when people listen to you speak, watch you on television, you're talking to Megan Kelly, you talk to Swim Swam, it's like, be who you want to be. whatever name you want, whatever gender you want. Like we're a free country, but when it comes to fairness, that's what it comes down to. It's like, call me a transphobe all you want, but you are the person that's saying be who you want. But if you're a biological man competing against women in sports, it just comes down to that. It's just not fair.
Yeah, I mean, look how fortunate we are to, in a first world country to, this is an issue that we're dealing with. I want to say it's fortunate for a lot of people in there, but, there's a lot going on out there that we should be so thankful that we are in a free country where if this is who Lia wants to be, like, and I support that. I have, full support of that, and I think most people in the United States do. I think one of the really interesting things, again, this issue, people, talk about dividing people a lot.
Yep.
This issue has brought a lot of people from a lot of different constituencies together, actually.
Yep.
Women who were leaders in creating, more opportunities in Title IX and gender equity, might have really come across and had some battles maybe with some conservatives and some other areas, and they're feeling like they've been left out and kind of pushed aside. And it's just really interesting to see how really it has brought a lot of different groups together.
Yep.
And it really isn't as partisan as we want to make it out to be.
But that's always a convenient thing to do. It's like, oh, this is a left or right issue. And I don't feel like this is a left or right issue at all. And I think the fact that we've talked a little bit more about putting people into boxes, like just because you don't feel like a biological male should be competing with females, that doesn't make you conservative. That just makes you someone that cares about the fairness and integrity of women's sports. And I mean, even yesterday, going back to that, I had a security guard outside. He talked to all of us and was saying, that was the first time I've seen Save Women's Sports and the supporters of Lia Thomas come together and actually have a discussion. Because that was a great view of what our country looks like, is we have this divide. There's literally this walkway and this road, and you got supporters of Lia and people on this side that just want to save women's sports and not supporting Lia being involved in this. It's like, let's bridge that gap. Let's actually talk about this and say it's not about left or right. It's about fairness, and it's about the integrity of the sport. That's it.
Well, it is. It's really interesting to see, when people actually maybe listen to each other a little bit more and just, again, begin to understand maybe where the other person is coming from. And I really have tried to do that. I think one of the things, again, I was probably taken a little bit out of context very early on, is like, there is a place in competitive swimming for everybody, and no ifs, ands, or buts. That's the beautiful thing. Even as a swim coach, I run a program and I call it From Cradle to Grave. I mean, we have a place for everybody from as early in life as possible till, you're ready to kick the bucket. And so, and again, all different ability levels. So that's exactly what we want. This is a lifetime sport. There's so many benefits to competing in the sport, or just the physical fitness side of it. And why would we want to turn anybody away? We just want to create there are rules in sports. I got to follow a lot of. I had to follow rules to get my athlete registered for this meeting. If I messed it up, I was going to be in a lot of trouble. So, you can't have a whole lot of gray area when it comes to your sport specific rules, and that I feel includes your male and female biology. And that's the way it's been. And unless we're going to totally revamp the sport in all sports to be more inclusive in that way, which I guess is an option. But this is the way it is right now. And so I feel like in this particular case, kind of on a transgender side, there has to be an adaptation, 3 years as a male competitive athlete in college, and then 2 years later as a female is, again, probably has not been the best use of rules or or just a demonstration of the archaic rule system that's there.
Because everybody too, it's like we can complain till we're blue in the face about things that we don't like, but you got to be solution oriented. So everybody wants to know. It's like there's a lot of people I think that are in the boat that they don't think this is right, but it's all about like, well, what's the next step? What's the solution? And it seems like right now what the NCAA is doing is that there's governing bodies. They've talked about a sport by sport approach, and then what happens when you go from college to the next level? It's like, well, what are their rules? And then there's all this whole, well, it's testosterone level, and then you go to the IOC, and they don't really have rules set in place at all. So I feel like everyone's just looking for solutions. I think you can easily dumb it down to, you don't think that men should be competing with women, but it's already happening now, and there's got to be a process to understand how do we go about fixing this. What's the solution?
Yeah, and that just goes back to what I said earlier. Is we're so driven kind of in the culture to be accepting and things like that, and we are. That's the beautiful thing here about the United States, but we can't blanket that across the board for everything. And in sport, again, it's just different. And I mean, the safety, the fairness, just the opportunities for biological women will be affected and can be affected. They are right here, unless we are more steadfast or hard and fast on kind of how we're going to accommodate and adapt to bring these other athletes into it.
So when people say there should maybe be just a transgender category, or there should just be an open division or something, what do you think could be done here for someone like Lia? That's like, I feel like I'm a woman now, but like biologically you are a man. So like, how do you go about that?
I don't know if that's my department right now. I'm a coach, and what I see every day and what I work with, and I don't know if I'm that decision maker or problem solver. I mean, I guess I have ideas, but I think there's a lot of people out there who would be very much more qualified to determine, what is how sport, in our case swimming or any other sport, should be adjusted, or if it even needs to be at all, or what it takes to compete in one category. I mean, look at sports that have weight categories. Look at sports that, there's just all sorts of different ways it's being done right now. I don't know if swimming needs to look at those things, but again, the way we are aligned right now as a sport and how we compete, this is kind of an invasion, I guess I would say, where, if we were rec swimming, and we're just getting up, racing, having some fun, and there's not a whole lot riding on it. Heck, I do it. We've done it at practice. Yeah. I run a masters meet. It's men and women in the same heats. It's based on time. I mean, there's all sorts of great ways to bring everybody together. I just don't know if this at the national championships is the best place to adjust and change our culture.
Couple more questions for you, because we don't want to keep you too long. I know it's chilly out here. Like, this weather is still wild to me. I don't know if people can see the lightning behind us here. But I think an interesting part of your story, though, is you've spoken out, but you haven't gotten canceled. You haven't had your bio erased from the school website. And I'm sure there's plenty of people that disagree with you. You talk about you got plenty of support here. There are people coming up. But I think it's got to be encouraging to people to hear what you have to say. It's like, hey, I'm just talking about from a sports perspective here. I don't think this is fair. And also, if you speak up, you're not going to get canceled for it. You're maybe going to get some backlash online, but you can speak your mind, and it can lead to more discussion.
Well, hopefully it leads to more people just talking about it or discussing it rationally. I feel really fortunate. I'm at Rice University it's an elite private school. Among one of the best in the world. And no, not everybody has appreciated what I've said initially. Again, did everybody hear every word I said? But my administration has been supportive of me in that, it's my free speech. Yep. And, I really appreciate that. And I've been at Rice for 20 years, and I think you kind of have, I'm not going to say you have to know your boundaries, but I felt like I was in a position where at Rice, as long as I'm being respectful and trying to, share some discourse and opinions that are not, hurting people, that would be okay. And it has been. And again, not everybody at Rice has valued what I've said, and I get that. And I've been wide open that I would love to talk to anybody who doesn't agree with me, and that's what we'd be.
Have people taken you up on that offer at all?
I haven't so much with students, and I understand. I mean, I think, think of it in terms of like someone who would maybe perceived with some power versus a student. And again, I can totally understand why someone would not be comfortable wanting to be in a conversation with me over that. And again, if it's a really emotional, sensitive issue to you, I respect that. But I feel like our school paper's been relatively fair to anything I've had to say. My administration has been supportive. We've actually, just like you said, we've had students initially say, hey, you have a lot more backing than but we're just kind of staying quiet. And over 1 week to the next, as things kind of continued on, we've actually had a number of students speak up. Wow. So honestly, in our little bubble at Rice, there has been a little bit of more discourse. I think speaking your mind, but doing it respectfully. Let's face it, there's a lot of value in it that in this day and age we're probably shying away from, because you've got to be either right or left, or up or down, or whatever, and there's nothing in between. And honestly, in this particular issue, we found a whole lot more people are probably in the middle of this fight than on either extreme.
How do you think history's going to remember these championships? So from years from now, maybe a couple decades or so, how will this be remembered?
Well, I think my hope is that the biological women's side, that this kind of confirmed why we need to kind of have current rules, and it kind of brought out like why we have separated and why we've created these opportunities for women, and then hopefully just on the other side, maybe there's discourse has become a little more open, and we can have some differences where what we do socially and what we believe is acceptable, where again I think our crowd here has been very respectful. Yep. And what we also feel is kind of where we have to have more, black and white rules. It's just the term I'll use on that. But that to create fairness, and this was kind of the epicenter of that, and hopefully we're bigger, better, and benefiting more later on from it.
Final question for you: if you could sit down with top dogs at the NCAA and Lia Thomas in what room, what would you say to the NCAA, and what would you say to Lia Thomas?
Everything we've talked about. Again, to Lia Thomas, the great thing again here is, if this is who you want to be, and this is your authentic self, then that is exactly what we all want for each other. And really, if the bravery just to be in that place, there's a lot of admiration. And I think people in the crowd there, if we can get past that it's wrong and this isn't right, there's a lot of admiration for anybody who's brave enough to kind of be in that position. To the NCAA again, it's just like, I hate this has been so bachelor, but let's follow the science. And I mean,
we got $1 for every single time we heard that.
But when the original rules were pretty much put in place in 2011, there's a plethora of information not just on transgender changes from a transgender woman or a trans man, and how much they change, and and how much their body is mitigated, but also just really the differences again between the male and female biology, that there's not a whole lot of real argument. And people will still come up and tell me that there's been a lot of studies showing you're wrong and there's not that many differences. And I don't know what studies they're looking at, but I can tell you from experience standing on the deck and coaching men and women, and there are differences, and they're profound.
Well, I hope people hear your heart behind this whole thing too. And I think hopefully people, when we speak of courage, you've been unbelievably courageous throughout this whole time speaking up about this. And people can't put you in a specific box. I feel like that's what maybe frustrates people, is like, well, this guy's saying that Lia can, be who you want, but knowing that, like, I still will stand against this when it comes to competing in women's swimming. Sure. And then knowing that you want to have discussions too. And I hope that's what I've noticed here. There's been so many discussions with people that are like, I don't know if I really align conservative or I'd really be on the left, but we're agreeing with things. And I think that's the beauty of America. And hopefully we find a solution here, and the NCAA can look at this and understand and have a discussion themselves, and people can see you for who you are, not just a clip here and there, not just a soundbite here and there, but like hear your heart behind this kind of stuff. And I think hopefully we can get back to that, because I think that's another beauty of America.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most of us in this day and age are just living on some sound bites and anonymous notes on Twitter and that, and we've really lost kind of the opportunity to exchange information, ideas, and there's probably more in common out there with a lot of these athletes and Lia than what the media and the outside world is going to give us all credit for.
Amen to that. Thanks so much for spending some time with us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.